So, good afternoon, folks. And it is a fine, lovely, and cold day over here in Connecticut, probably almost as cold as it is there. We are talking about Yelp today. Yelp is the big evil in a lot of people's minds, which I would completely agree with. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that you really have to be on. People searching for Yelp for great local businesses spend a lot of time on there. I don't think, unfortunately, bed and breakfasts understand just how much time people do spend on Yelp. The lodging industry as a whole kind of seems very focused on TripAdvisor, which is realistic because there are a huge amount of people using TripAdvisor, but there's more and more millennials, as in the people in their 20s and early 30s are using Yelp primarily over TripAdvisor, and as that age group continues to grow, Yelp use, especially for lodging and bed and breakfast, is going to continue to grow. Now, the typical Yelp audience right now is about 46% male and about 54% female. About half of them are married. Almost 70% of them plus have attended college or graduate school. So remarkably enough, Yelp users are actually pretty well educated. I've actually heard some statistics and some scuttlebutt saying, oh, the people that use Yelp are not educated, and that is anything but true. In terms of the age composition, most of the heavy users currently are 25 to 35, and then 35 to 54 is about the other 40%. So it's actually a pretty big, age demographic that are using Yelp. And those are actually ComScore scores from the U.S. audience from the end of August 2013. Those demographics have actually not changed that much. Now, TripAdvisor is also known as the 800-pound gorilla, and that's primarily what people in the lodging industry pay attention to. I consider Yelp to be the little monkey that's sitting in the closet eating an awful lot of bananas, and unfortunately it is growing, and unfortunately businesses, lodging businesses, restaurant businesses, regardless of what industry you're in, have to really start to pay attention to that more and more. Regardless of reviews, one of the primary reasons to use Yelp is search engine optimization. If you can see from Sandy's snapshot of Googling her for her homepage, this is on her homepage, and she is, I know for a fact, on a lot of other directories. She's also on a lot of other social media, but her Yelp page is coming up on the first page of Google in search. I just want to point out too, and this is important for everybody, if you take a look at her listings, she's got a couple of things that are not, and this is completely unrelated to Google, but important for NAP listings. If everybody could just chat in on the right, do you guys are familiar with NAP listings? It's name, area, phone number. And if anybody doesn't understand that, if they could just say no onto the left or onto the right on the chat box, that would be appreciated. Okay. Name, area, place, or phone number has to do a lot with search engine optimization. And if you don't have consistent NAP, Acorn Internet has a terrific resource and a couple of webinars on it. It can affect your search engine optimization, and I bring this up with Sandy's listings because she has some different things in the different listings. On her Yelp listing, it says she's in Birchville. On her Google Plus listing, it has Township, Michigan. And all of these things, if they don't match on as many directories and pages as possible, can actually decrease the value of your search engine optimization. So one of the things that it's important to do is actually Google your business and go through every directory and every place that you're listed and make sure that your name, your address, and your phone number are all consistent across all of those. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Now this is an advanced, who caught me on the Oz earlier? This is an example of her B&B listing on Yelp, and she's claimed it, she's optimized it, she's uploaded photos to it. She has the message to the business enabled, and she has one public review, and she also has, if you could see down here at the bottom, 3 other reviews that are not currently recommended. Now, just to show you how much of an impact Yelp has on search engine optimization, this is another B&B in Michigan. And again, on their first page, their Yelp listing comes up on page 1, and it's actually even higher than on Sandy's listing. And her listing has not been claimed at all. So it hasn't been optimized, it hasn't been claimed, there's no photos put in here. And photos are important. When you claim your listing, you can upload multiple photos to it. I have actually contacted Yelp, and they tell me that there does not seem to be a limit to the amount of photos that you can add, and they can also be user-generated photos. There's a couple of other bells and whistles. They have a slideshow option, but that's paid. But optimizing your listing is important because they actually say that when people are searching for Yelp, they spend 2.5 times as much time on a business page with photos as opposed to one that has no photos at all. Now, one of the things that everybody seems to be, oh, what does that mean, not currently recommended? I actually will go over that in just a second. Okay, one of the things that Yelp does, sort of like TripAdvisor giving the red flags to people, is they don't like people to ask for reviews for a price. So if they catch you saying, hey, we'll give you a discount on something, we will, give you half off, or sorry, not half off, but 10% off your room stay, and Yelp catches you, you will get flagged for it. And they actually do some other things in terms of even good quality reviews from people that are not being filtered out. They will start to filter them out too. Yelp denies that they do this, but I've actually found that they do this. So just be careful in terms of asking people reviews. Try not to give them an incentive. And if you are going to give them incentive, make sure it's not public, that Yelp can see it somewhere. Now, there's a bunch of different types of feedback that you can get from people. This is a 5-star listing, and they can also add photos to reviews. Those photos do end up on that sort of photo carousel at the top. Unfortunately, sometimes they're not the best photos. It's sort of like having people take selfies of things, or taking those, photos of the picture of food. They're not necessarily the best photos. So if you do start having a lot of activity on Yelp, I would recommend reviewing the photos that are on there. And because photos loaded are consecutive, if you had some photos on here of your food, for example, that just very poorly lit and didn't give a great impression of, your bed and breakfast, you would want to go on your Yelp listing and add some newer photos to push those user photos a little bit further back. Now, you'll hear some things about Yelp elites. Yelp elites are people that Yelp has basically recruited. They get incentives from Yelp to go and review places. They're interesting people. They're, as they can say, elites. That's what they call themselves as well. They generally will leave fairly good reviews. They'll almost always take pictures, and they'll always write extensive reviews. I have yet to come across a review by an elite that is not quite wordy. Yelp loves these because the details in the reviews are usually keyword heavy, and that's actually helping Yelp's search engine optimization and indirectly helping yours as well. It's not necessarily a bad thing to target elites if you can find them online. Again, don't try to give them an incentive to come, but if you have one and you find out that you have a Yelp elite user staying at your B&B, a little extra cream in the coffee would always go over well. Downright bribery does not, but the little extra special touches that you guys all do anyway are always appreciated. And then, of course, there's the, as people call, the Yelpers, and that's usually said with a negative tone of voice. People leave nasty reviews on here. Similar to TripAdvisor, you are going to have people that are going to leave reviews on Yelp that have never stayed at your inn. They've never spoken to you. They get you completely wrong with another inn, sometimes in a completely different county or a different completely state, or they're just trolls. And TripAdvisor has them too. Realistically, there's not really anything that you can do about them other than to respond. Now, Yelp, and this is kind of an important point to remember, takes review responses a little bit differently than TripAdvisor. When you leave a review or you leave a management review on Yelp, and you have to claim your Yelp listing first in order to do that, Yelp asks that you try to contact the negative reviewer or even the positive reviewer privately first. They say take about a week. If they don't respond, then leave them a public review. If you skip the private messaging process and you go straight to leaving them a public review, Yelp will about 99% of the time filter out your management review response. So it's always a good idea, no matter who they are, whether they're someone having their knickers in a twist and having a bad hair day, a troll, or somebody just not having a good day in period and left a nasty review or a bad review, try to reach out to them privately. If they can remove the review themselves, that's even better, but try that tactic first. Otherwise, you've wasted your time writing a review response that nobody's going to see. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. Now, reviews that get filtered out, and unfortunately you'll see this a lot. Like you'll have on Sandy's listing, for example, she had 1 public one and 3 that got filtered out. Here's an example of a B&B that has 21 reviews. They're not currently recommended, and I think only about 15 of the other ones are public. Now, there's some reasons why reviews get filtered. So when you're trying to get reviews on Yelp, it's just something to keep in mind. Reviews get filtered out if they're from one person that's only written 1 review before. It's very strongly slanted, both positively and negatively. It's short and lacking details. It's from their IP address. So if you have somebody leaving a Yelp review that's staying with you, similar to TripAdvisor, they might actually filter out your review because it's coming from your home IP address. So Yelp will say, oh, this is actually you leaving the review. If you find out that you've received positive reviews that really should be on the first page, and will allow you to bump up your star rating on Yelp, there's a few things that you can do to help that reviewer get to be more legitimate. You do have the ability to add people as friends on Yelp. It's not anything like adding them as a friend on Facebook. It just means that basically you're connected with them. It's a lot like following people on Twitter. There's not a real personal connection, but the more friends that they have, the higher Yelp will say, okay, this is a legitimate person, for example. So it's add them as a friend so it looks like their account is active. Send the reviewer a message to let them know the review isn't being counted because they haven't filled out their profile. That's another main reason why people's reviews get filtered out, is because maybe they've signed up for a Yelp listing or Yelp account. They've had 1 or 2 reviews they've written, but they don't have a photo in there. They don't have a profile filled out in terms of a bio. So that's another reason they might end up in the filtered reviews. You can still leave a comment on their review to encourage them to reply to it. You can also vote on the review. And just like voting on a public one, you could say useful, funny, cool. This is Yelp, and the millennials love it. But users can still read those other reviews that are not currently recommended. I've seen mixed things online about whether people actually do or not. Anybody that I know of that uses Yelp that is of the younger generation actually tells me they actually go forward and read all of the filtered reviews. They say they take them with a grain of salt. So if you have 20 reviews and every single one that's filtered out is exceedingly glowing, they're going to take that with a grain of salt as, okay, these are probably, not real reviewers. If you have a mix of positive ones and ones that are maybe 4-star or 3-star and a bunch of 5-star, they're more likely to believe the filtered reviews are honest ones. Now, so this is an example of 12 reviews. Some of these are just excessively over-the-top wonderful. And Yelp has some interesting algorithms within it. You'd suspect, oh, they're just picking on us because these are great reviews and they don't want them published. The Yelp algorithms actually have, and I'm trying to actually put together a list of keywords when used in the reviews, make them go into their filter every single time. I've come up with a few of them. Delectable actually is once, and that's why I pulled out this example. There's some other ones in here. Let's see. Well-appointed is another one. And there's certain combinations of keywords used in reviews that no matter, even if they've left, in this case, like they've left 15 reviews, they're going to go into your spam filter. Realistically, there's nothing you can do about that, but it's a good thing to be aware of it. This is something that will show up in a review in your review listing. This is an optimized profile. When you have certain keywords, both in your profile that you filled out, and then there's keywords that come up more than 3 times in people's reviews, it will start to actually pull up samples of those reviews into the top bar of that listing, as you can see in the red part. And you can see, like cottage, for example, that was mentioned in 14 of the reviews. Main house was mentioned in 6. And Joe was mentioned in 9 reviews. Responding to reviews is very important. You can as well respond to positive ones. That is encouraged. But again, if you're going to respond to a positive review as well as a negative one, try to send them a private message first, thanking them for the review. That's always helpful as well, because you can respond to people and say, hey, thanks for actually taking the time to log into Yelp to spend the time to write us a review. We really appreciate that. That level of personalization is terrific for customer feedback, for guest feedback. You don't necessarily have to reply to the good ones. That's optional. But do try to reply to the negative ones. And primarily the reason for reviews is it's not about the reviewer. It's realistically only a small portion. Is it a good idea? Okay. It's only about the people looking at it. So if you reply to somebody that had a bad experience, for example, or a so-so experience, the odds that they may or may not return as a guest are actually really overshadowed by the fact that this is realistically for literally the thousands and thousands of other people that are going to see the review. So Claire, is it a good idea to be a Yelp user yourselves, reviewing other places we go to? Yes, and there actually is a way to do that so it shows up. Now this is an example of, I believe this is one of your members, and this is long. I'll be honest, Linda had a question before mine. Okay, we'll look up at that in a second. This is too long, and I'll just be frank with you. When you're responding to reviewers, short and sweet and to the point. And try not to get defensive if possible. Getting a review, especially one that's not the best review, the first thing everybody does, no matter who they are and what business they're in, is to get defensive about it. You just have to remember you need to be reading the review and writing the review from a perspective of who else is going to look at it, not about your personal feelings about it. Even if they're a fruitcake, it's not about them and about the fact that they misunderstood things, they missed things. It's, again, about everybody else reading this. Let me go back to, how do you send a private message? Okay, I will go over that near the end, Linda. Please remind me if I forget. Now this is a good example of a short and sweet one. We're sorry the stay did not meet your expectations. The key to responding to a perfect review is just apologize. Again, it doesn't matter if they're nuts. It doesn't matter if it's completely untrue. Apologize and let them move on for that. And just try to make an effort, again, for the people reading it, not for necessarily for them. Now, to get to your business page, and this is where all of the bells and whistles are located, there's 2 different ways. You can go to or Google for Business, and it'll bring you to that Google for Business or Yelp for Business Owners, or at the top of the Yelp main page, it says Go to Yelp for Business Owners. That will bring you right to this section. And if you haven't claimed your listing, you can claim it down here, or if you have claimed it, you can log in right here. And this will bring you to a dashboard. This has your user views. Customer leads is something that will show up based on clicks. It's not based on anything that you're paying for. This is entirely what we're talking about now, the free version of Yelp. But it will actually give you click-throughs according to Yelp of people that have actually clicked through to your site according to Yelp. I would recommend if you go in and you see your dashboard and it says 50 people have clicked through to your site, if you're using Google Analytics or any other analytics software, double check that. Some of the B&Bs that I work with that I have the back-end availability to go into their Yelp accounts, the click-throughs that Yelp says that you're getting and the click-throughs that you're actually getting through Google Analytics and, in addition, a separate analytics software are not matching up. And this is important because if you do go into the paid revenue part of Yelp and doing Yelp ads, the amount of click-throughs that you're getting versus what they say you're getting has not matched up ever. And that's just something to be aware of. If you confront Yelp with it, they'll deny it completely. But in the few years that I've been dealing with this, just as an FYI, just to be aware of, the numbers don't match. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, now your dashboard has basically all of the different things that you can address back here. They have Yelp, ads, call to action, business information, reviews. If you click on the reviews, this is where you'll actually get brought up with a list of reviews that you can respond to, and then you can direct message with them inside that. The messaging feature is also tied into the reviews, but that's also where you can turn off that people can message you from your homepage. Some people may not want that enabled. I don't have a lot of people that actually seem to be messaging businesses within that. I guess the question is you need to figure out is if you do want to have a lot of activity on Yelp, are you going to pay attention to messaging? It's supposed to go into your email, but I found that it doesn't always. So if you have the messaging feature enabled from your homepage, I would go back in and check to see if you have messages fairly frequently. Deals and gift certificates, page upgrades, and review badges. Now this is one of the paid features that Yelp offers. You can set up a book a room through it. And in terms of pricing for that, that's part of their advertising package. This is part of what they call an enhanced profile. It really depends on what you're signing up for. Their enhanced profile runs, and this is just, I've gotten numbers from several different people. These are averages. 12 months, it's $50 per month for an enhanced profile with a $150 advertising budget. For 6 months, it's $75 a month and then $125 advertising budget. And I'm going to send this along to Linda later so that you can actually look at some different pricings that I've gotten hold of. You're going to get different people calling will get different prices from them. I don't know why, and I don't know how they gauge who pays more and who pays less. But I have found that I've gotten a range, and that's the average of a whole bunch of different listings that I've gotten from different businesses, a bunch of those being B&Bs. If you're going to pay for that, that would be one thing that I would have enabled, that book a room option. And then this is what the book a room option looks like. So people would put in their date range, how many rooms, how many people, and then get rates. And this is part of the call to action. There are different options in here. So you could have a call now, contact us, print a coupon, which is probably something that you don't want to do. Mercian. Okay. Yes, you definitely want to state that you are new owners. You can also send a message in. Can everybody see the chat to the right and see the question? Okay, I'm going to assume that, so since somebody said anything, that yes. So yes, that you should definitely state that you have new owners. And similar to a TripAdvisor listing, if you have new owners, you can send a support request to Yelp. I actually would recommend sending support tickets into them as opposed to calling them and saying, hey, can you remove some of the bad reviews, or can you have it clearly stated that we are new owners? They won't necessarily do it, but it is worth a shot. It has worked sometimes. The reason you don't want to get them on the phone is they're going to try to sell you stuff, everything under the sun. The Yelp people are very, very aggressive. So if you call them for ad rates, just be prepared to be jumped on in advance. Hopefully that answered your question. Okay. Now all of these things are related to Yelp ads. Are there any questions? I actually have up to date, Jan, responded to any questions that have been sent in. I do have some additional ones, and if you have some, please feel free to ask them. Okay. Yelp ads are, in my mind, probably not worth the money. They can be, but they need to be very clearly managed. One of the things about Yelp ads as opposed to Facebook ads or LinkedIn ads is once you start your ad, being able to stop it and edit it it's just they're not going to let you do that. If you signed up for a month of Yelp ads and you try to cancel it midstream, they're going to tell you no. If you make a big stink about it, they'll still probably tell you no. So if you're going to do Yelp advertising, just think in mind whether you really want to spend the money for this. Up to $2,500, about 40 clicks on your Yelp ad, isn't actually really realistic in terms of what the money is spent that you actually get out of it per click. They've actually found that's about half that, so up to $2,500 is more like 25 clicks, not 40 clicks. Jan, in terms of more of the keywords that I mentioned earlier for the algorithms that filter, I am in the midst of putting together a pretty thorough list of as many as I can. As soon as I'm done with that, which should be in a couple of weeks, I will make sure that I forward that to you guys so you know. There's not really anything you can do about it, but it will help in terms of, saying why this particular review was filtered out. There's also something called an enhanced profile. These are very expensive. They're about $300 a month for the very, very small banner ad. It's interesting, Sandy sent me an email earlier today saying she saw a banner ad for someone in Connecticut at the very top of the Yelp listing while she was searching for a B&B in Michigan. Okay. Jan, let me go back. 3 people who said they did not understand the answer to your first question. Okay. Are we talking about the NAP listing? If anybody still has a question about the NAP listing that I was going on, could they please say yes in the chat bar? I'm going to unmute everybody so they can just chime in, okay? Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi. So there was a question from Jan that said 3 people who said they did not know the answer to your very first question. And was that about the NAP listing or about something else? Anyone?
Well, I said I didn't know, and then you answered the question, so I do know now.
Okay. All right, good. I just wanted to make sure everybody was on the same page. And if people have questions that they didn't get answered for some reason because I missed them or they think about after the fact, please feel free to email me. I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay, I'm gonna mute you guys all again. All right. This is also the enhanced listing. It does give you quite a bit more targeting. When you're filling out your listing, you need to be specific and put in as much information as possible. All of these things, and I'll send you this particular screenshot, these things are all important to put in your business description. So if you accept credit cards, which I'm sure all of you guys do, if you have a bunch like dogs allowed, for example, those are all good things to put into your own biographies and in terms of your own listings, because not only will that enhance searchability in Yelp itself, that will add to your search engine optimization listing. All of these things too tech savvy, for example, is actually good to put into your business profile, especially if you have free Wi-Fi, because people actually search within the Yelp search listing for free Wi-Fi, and because you have that in there, that'll actually help your listing pop up better organically. And this is what the boards look like. So the super leaderboard, for example, this is the really, really expensive one. I don't have a price on it, but exactly, the last I heard it ran about almost $1,000. So it's pretty pricey in terms of the extra advertising on Yelp. If you do Yelp ads, they'll show your results above your competition. They'll also appear on the competition's business pages, and these ads in particular are actually talking about the smaller scale advertising for Yelp. So example, White Swan in Bed and Breakfast has a paid ad, and their listing actually shows up on pretty much every listing within a 50-mile radius of someone looking for a B&B. So if you were going to start thinking about spending a little bit money for ad advertising, that, and this is my own personal opinion, of course, would probably be the only other thing that would be worth doing, just because your listing gets extended well beyond your immediate regional listing. There's also something in the back end called business page upgrades, where you can add a slideshow. That's $25 per month prepaid, and they're prepaid. They actually try to sell you a whole year deal if you're interested in this. And the prepaid per month is not cancelable midstream, so if you pay for it in advance the whole month of March, you have to wait until it's done. I honestly haven't seen any particular reason why it enhances your listing that much more. It doesn't give you, you can't click on the pictures to make them any more enhanceable. You can't click on the pictures to send them to your website. It just makes the listing look prettier. Now you can create deals. Yelp deals are pretty much just like a Groupon deal. You pay an enormous amount of money to Yelp. As you can see, they take 30% and you take 70%. If you're desperate to get heads in beds, that's one thing, but they do take a huge cut of the price. I don't know how you guys feel about Grouponers personally, but I found, and from feedback that I've gotten from a lot of other inns, is the people that like Grouponers, the people that like Groupon and the people that like Yelp deals are not going to be repeat customers, and a lot of the time, unfortunately, are the biggest complainers. They want everything for free. If you want to investigate this, I would say go ahead and I would encourage you to do that. Just be careful of what you get locked into, and make sure you set a limit on how many you offer. I do know of a B&B out in California that sent in, I think it was 150 availability for Yelp deals, and within 2 days she got all of them taken, and she lost basically almost a whole month of revenue because of that. So just be cautious if you're messing around in the inside of this one. Now this is where the gist of it is. When you want to bump up your listing, your business information is the most important part of your Yelp listing. So after you've claimed it, click on the business information. It will tell you how many reviews, if you've already responded to reviews, that you can message, and how many more public comments you can make that particular day. Now, there's 3 different areas that you can fill out. Your specialties, the 1,500 characters, history, 1,000 characters, and meet the business owner, 1,000 characters. The meet the business owner, you may or may not want to put a personal profile photo in there. It will not accept a logo, just so you're aware, and it will not accept a picture of your inn. It actually has to be a headshot. If you do load up something other than a headshot, in about a week you'll actually get a notification saying it's not been accepted. That doesn't mean it's going to take out any of the other information that's in there, but it just won't show you what you want it to show. You do want to make sure you're not repeating too many keywords. The content's in the wrong place. You don't want a lot of capitalization or punctuation. You don't want to post offers, announcements, or promotions, or contact information like phone numbers, emails, and web links. There actually was a B&B I came across this morning that actually was posting an offer in their specialties section, and when I looked at it again several hours later, Yelp had nabbed them for it and removed that section. I don't know how they do it, whether they have somebody actually looking at it, or it's something that their search algorithms catch when people do that. I think it's more likely that the algorithms do, just because in this particular case it was caught so quickly. And one of the things that you can do, as I mentioned in the beginning, is upload multiple photos and videos. So again, if you have people uploading photos that are not the best quality photos, they're representing your in. So I would make sure and go in and put in some new high-grade photos so that when people land on your Yelp listing for the first time, they're going to see those better photos first. And again, there doesn't seem to be an amount set of how many photos can go in here. Yelp itself said that there is no limit to them. So that's straight from the horse's mouth. Now, review badges are something else that you can put on your site. Just keep in mind, people do have to have their own Yelp account to leave a review. And again, this goes back to having their reviews filtered out. If you're encouraging by email, by like an email blast, for example, by snail mail, by however other means you have of reaching out to guests and repeat guests and new guests, and you're asking people to review you on Yelp, review you on TripAdvisor, review you on Google+, for example, which is also very important. Just make sure that they have the Yelp account first, and they're reviewing other things first. Okay. I had a question. Do other people who post photos have the same priority as the business owner? Anytime somebody posts a photo, it doesn't really have a priority. The newest posted goes into the first shown. So you can go back in if you see photos that are not that great, go back in and upload some of your new photos, because they'll push the other ones back in the cycle of what people can look at. Now, from the business, when your profile is filled out, you'll see off to the right, you'll see things like hours, free Wi-Fi. There's a bunch of different options in here about what you offer. Yes, we take credit cards. And then it'll give you a small snippet, and if that's clicked on, that will bring up a bigger box of the history, the specialties about the owners. Now, this is one of the things that you can do from a business perspective of enhancing your area and enhancing your listing online. This also helps with your search engine optimization. You can recommend other businesses. You can review other businesses as an individual Yelp account as a personal account. But you can't necessarily review them as your business. You can recommend them, though. So that's a little bit different. I wouldn't recommend actually reviewing them in a negative standpoint because that unfortunately doesn't look good. We had a couple questions that were sent in earlier from some people that couldn't make it to the webinar, so I'm just going to go over them really quickly. It was asked, is there any feedback mechanism for Yelp, one that someone at Yelp pays attention to? If you search on Yelp for the word breakfast, meaning that's the category of food you seek, the search results will include bed and breakfast for that town. That makes it seem like you can walk in off the street and order breakfast. The way Yelp's search algorithm works is it works a lot like the search algorithm in Facebook. It won't pick up keyword strings. So if you have breakfast in your listing, unfortunately there's no way for that to be filtered or to be specified as bed and breakfast. It'll just pick up on the fact that it's breakfast. Let's see. Can a local business do anything to affect the geographic area that a Yelp search covers? My B&B is included in Yelp search results for Lexington, Michigan, 9 miles away, but is not included in results for Huron, 12 miles away. And I'm sure I mispronounced that. I apologized. I did a similar search, bed and breakfast inns for another Michigan town, and Yelp results included inns up to 30 miles away. That's a great question. The way that can be combated is if you can put that in your specialties and your about, and say, hey, we're 30 miles from X town and 20 miles from X airport, for example. The way Yelp's search works is it takes into account major things like if you're within 20 miles of a big museum, for example, and you are, 10 miles from the airport, that's the kind of thing that you should put into your description, because that will actually help influence where geographically you will show up when people search for you. Okay, there was a question, what do you recommend if you read a review or recommendation of another business that contains false information? That's a good question. False information in terms of, if you guys could clarify who wrote that, false information in terms of something that the business owner put in? Okay, and while that person is writing the response to that, there was one more. Why aren't the Yelp results that Siri reports the same as what you get in a Yelp search on your computer? My inn is third online but not mentioned by Siri. And the reason being, Siri's results are actually pulled from Apple Maps and from Bing Maps. It used to be pulled from Google Map listings, and a little over a year ago, they kind of had a disagreement with each other. So now Siri's pulling from Bing and Apple. Apple Maps, for those not aware of that, just fairly recently rolled out something where if you have incorrect information in your listing, you can go in now and claim your listing and edit it and change it to what's correct. Okay. I'm going to unmute you guys. So if anybody had any questions, I would actually prefer just to say, I'm raising my hand and ask the question. Okay? So I'm unmuting everybody now. And okay, and so here is the extended thing about if they have something incorrect. Say they claim that a business serves gluten-free items and they actually do not have any on the menu. That one's a little bit hard to prove, just because you could report it to Yelp, but unless you have, substantive information in terms of, okay, they say they offer gluten-free items and you know for a fact that they don't, that's going to be difficult to prove. I mean, it'd be easier if they said they were pet-friendly and then it clearly stated on their website, for example, that they weren't pet-friendly. That would be easier to prove because you'd actually have documentation out of that. Again, you can report it to Google, or to Yelp rather, but I don't think that they would actually do anything about it because there's no documentation behind that. Did anybody else have any other questions? Is everybody alive out there?
Yeah, we're alive.
Did I totally bore you guys all to death?
No, I was trying to think how to ask. It was the last question that probably is one that Sandy sent in.
Okay.
I don't know if I was if I lost my train of thought, but you said something about how cleaning up our listing.
The Yelp listing?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I missed exactly what you were saying.
Oh, okay. You know what? If you can hold on a second, let me see if I can log into my Yelp listing just so you can see what the actual back end looks like. Taking screenshots sometimes is not the easiest because you can't fit that much on the screen. All right. So if you click on like business information, for example, so it gives you basic information, and this was something, you can have multiple categories. There's a couple of trains of thought about that. In terms of, most marketing people say that realistically you should have at least 2 categories listed. That goes into the Facebook realm of you need to have bed and breakfast and hotels listing. I would actually recommend that you put hotels in your listing too. It will, it will help enhance your search engine optimization and will help you in search more. Let's see.
Will it also help you then if people are searching for hotels that your B&B
yes.
pops up?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can put your hours in. From the perspective of a B&B and you're open 24/7, you're going to have to decide what kind of hours you want to put in because that might confuse people. I would recommend going by the best practices of what most of the hotels do and just put in, 12 a.m. to whatever, the whole 24 hours thing. Granted, that can be a little deceptive because we don't want, obviously, people calling you guys at 10 o'clock at night to make reservation. The reality is they do it anyway. You have specialties. This is generally, you can put block print in here, and then history, and then the business owner. All of this information can be changed and optimized at any time that you want to. And then down here in the internal listing is the add the business recommendations. And that's where you can go and recommend, other area businesses, for example. Okay. Is there anything else that you guys maybe wanted to look at while I'm sort of logged into the back end of this?
So business recommendations, that might be where we'd recommend to people,
yep.
local restaurants,
yes.
things like that.
Yep. Let me just click into this. So what you have to do is search for something. If somebody doesn't actually have a Yelp listing, anybody can create a Yelp listing for a business that doesn't have one already. This is where a lot of B&Bs kind of don't understand the fact that someone created a listing for them. They can still claim it, but they may not even know that they have a Yelp listing out there. I've seen that with an awful lot of businesses because somebody usually, unfortunately, had a really bad experience somewhere, went to go review them on Yelp, found they didn't have a Yelp listing, so created one for them. Again, that can still be claimed. If you have a business that you really want to recommend and they don't have a Yelp listing, you can set one up for them. But if they're good friends, I would say, take the 15 minutes and say, this will help your search engine optimization. I want to help you. Let's help you set this up and optimize it. And then you can recommend them because their name will show up in there. Okay.
I have not claimed my Yelp listing yet.
Okay.
But I have a review on Yelp,
mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think how it and it's a good review. So I haven't even checked. I may have another one because somebody asked me just recently
mm-hmm.
Where he might review me.
Okay.
And if that was all right to review me there, and I said sure, even though I haven't actually even seen. So
right.
Is it likely that somebody else has claimed that?
No, you have to claim your own business. Just like claiming a business on Google+, they will either call you or they'll send you a message by snail mail. I have never actually run into anybody else that's been able to claim a business. I mean, I've had management that works in a business, not the owners or staff, claim it. And then, of course, the email that's attached to has to get eventually switched to the owner. But I haven't run into anybody being able to claim a listing to, do anything bad with it or, hold it for hostage yet. I mean, maybe there has been some out there, but what's the name of your inn? Do you mind if I look?
At Willow Pond Bed and Breakfast.
What was that?
At Willow Pond.
Is it
at
ATT?
No, AT. There you go. At Willow Pond. Yes.
My dyslexia is kicking in. Sorry. And where is it near?
We're in Fenwick. I don't know if that address will come up.
Fenwick.
Greensburg, perhaps.
Fenwick. Let's see. One review. Oh, you've got one with pictures. That's great. Yeah, see, as you can see, and this is a good example of it, their pictures started to populate your listing. Okay, so you don't have any filtered ones. That's great. Yeah, I would definitely go in here and fill it out. I mean, the nice thing about Yelp is pretty much you can set it up and forget about it. But you just do need to be aware of it from a reputation management standpoint. And it's realistically, it's not for the reviewers. It's for the bazillion other people out there using it. Yelp use is growing quite a bit all the time.
I like it. They did a nice job.
They did. They did. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions? It is. It's a very nice review. So.
Hi, Heather.
Yeah.
This is Lisa from the Cocoa Cottage Bed and Breakfast.
Yes.
And one of the things that we struggle with, I mean, we've when bedandbreakfast.com was doing reviews, and they used to do it with the little postcards that you mailed in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we actually made that part of our checkout process, and we've got a lot of really wonderful reviews out there. And you know, now we're all trying to get reviews on TripAdvisor and Google Plus, and now Yelp. And as a we just returned from a lengthy trip where we stayed at multiple B&Bs all through the South.
Yeah.
And you know, sitting on the other side of the fence, you know, now I get these emails saying, you know, please do us.
Right.
And it's a bit overwhelming when you're asking your guests to review you in so many different places.
Yes.
And everyone's time is valuable, and yet, you know, I certainly recognize that these reviews, whether we like it or not, are going to be our lifeblood. But do you have any recommendations of, you know, do you just ask for reviews for one of these sites for 6 months and then switch to another site?
No.
Or
the best way to do it is if you're on multiple channels and you want to try to boost multiple channels, is there's a great little way to word it, and you can just say, hey, we understand everybody has their own favorite channels that they use, whether it's TripAdvisor or Google Plus or Yelp, you know, and then we would appreciate if you're a really big user of Facebook, for example, leaving us a review on the one that you feel the most comfortable with, and then give them all the direct links to be able to review you. And then because the people will review on the ones that they're on anyway, you know, then you at least have the odds of getting them to review at least Facebook if they just use Facebook, or Yelp if they just use Facebook, or if they just use Yelp, for example.
right.
You know, and I know it gets kind of wordy in terms of that, but, you know, asking people to leave a review on Google Plus where they have to first create a Google Plus account and then leave a review is too much. And it is the same for Yelp, too. If someone's not a Yelper, it is time-consuming to have to go create an account with yet another password that they maybe have to remember and then leave a review, the one review that may or may not get filtered out because they're a first-time user. So just, you know, tell everybody we'd appreciate a review on whatever you guys use the most. And that's worked the best that I found for the B&Bs using that tactic.
Okay.
Okay.
And
What's that?
well, kind of, there will be a lot.
Oh, hello. I think I lost somebody.
I sort of hear somebody talking in there.
Okay.
Kind of as an adjunct onto that, like I get a little frustrated with TripAdvisor sometimes because it seems to confuse me as a person versus me as a business.
Right.
And it always wants me to sign in with my Facebook, but I don't want to sign in with my personal Facebook, and yet I can't sign in with my business Facebook.
Right.
So, again, any recommendations? Just don't sign in with your social media account?
Yes. Yeah, because I actually, by default, apparently admin several TripAdvisor pages for ends, and I can't seem to disconnect them. and that's all attached through my Facebook account, so I actually had to create a separate account to create my own personal account for reviewing things. If you have multiple email addresses, it's a lot easier to do.
Well, and my experience is, once you set something up, you know, incorrectly, it takes a long time to get those things corrected.
Yes.
Because I did that with Google, and it literally took me almost 2 years to get it straightened out.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a long, arduous process.
So, was this for your Google Plus listing?
Yep, you had actually tried helping me.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yep. Okay.
And I believe it's all finally sorted out, but it was arduous. I mean, it was arduous to get done.
Okay. Google, if anybody's still having Google issues, about 6 months ago, they actually rolled out an option, and I can send anybody the page link if they need it, where you can actually call them directly, or they'll call you, so you don't have to muck around with sending in support requests. I've been working with some businesses in the last couple months that have had like 5 different Google Plus pages, and it's a lot easier to call them and say, here's all the separate links, here's the main page, can you merge them, and then 5 minutes later it's done, than having to go through the whole email system. So at least they've simplified that. They have unfortunately just recently outsourced that call center to India. So if you need to call them for whatever reason, call them in the middle of the night. That's when the best English speakers are online, because it's their daytime.
Was that just really recently?
Within the past month and a half.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Because I was working with them extensively in November, and it was great. Oh, okay. Thank you for that tip. Okay.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Any more questions?
No.
No? Okay. Again, you guys, thank you so much. If you do have questions that you think about after the fact, or maybe we went over something that wasn't as clear as you would have liked, please shoot me an email. I am more than happy to try to help. I am online all over the place. If you are on Google+, please join our Google+ Bed and Breakfast group. We've got about 650 members. Even if you're not really comfortable using Google, it's a great place to interact with some other B&Bs. I promise you will not be jumped on by a vendor, because I really limit who's able to get in. So thank you guys. Have a wonderful day, and cheers.
Let me just add quickly, if I could, that I will include a link to your email address in case people have questions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Linda. I appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Linda.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Great job, Heather. Thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Okay.